I'm Mark.
And I'm Zach.
Every week, on a Saturday, in the Fab Radio International Studios,
we discuss 3 of the week's comic book releases and decide if we want to...
pull or pass. Hello and welcome to Pull or Pass, your weekly geeky comic book radio show. It's issue number 7. I'm Mark and I'm alongside...
Zach.
Hello, Zach.
Hey, Mark. Number 7, you know, we're getting serious with the numbers now.
That's more than some comic books last, including ongoing series.
Yeah, very true. And we're doing good.
Yeah, we are. We seem to have got our format sorted, and shall we talk about that very quickly? We've got our format sorted, but we do like to talk comics.
Yeah.
So we've come up with Pull or Pass After Dark, which, beyond popping ourselves with the name, Pull or Pass After Dark is for stuff what we couldn't fit on the radio show that we have every week for an hour. It's exclusive just to our podcast listeners. You can listen to it on our Mixcloud or our Spotify and all the other podcast listening malarkeys. And we've done one, and it was you, Zach. You did an interview. Tell us about it.
So I met with Hamish Steele, Eisner Award-winning writer of Pantheon and Dead Endia, to talk about his new book, Dead Endia, The Broken Halo. This is sounding very similar to the intro to the actual episode, but it's not. This is real.
Good.
So yeah, we met up. He was doing a signing tour in Travelling Man before the release, so I met up with him, had a quick chat, and it's out now, and so is the podcast to back that up.
Yeah, so it's basically, if we have got an After Dark, we post it on a Tuesday. We post our main show on Listen Again on a Sunday, and we post After Dark on a Tuesday if we've got one. We won't have one every week, and we don't have one this week. But if we want to talk about a trade, for example, or if we've got a cool interview like you had the other week, or if we want to do some kind of crazy crossover with other podcasts, we can do that. That's where it'll go. Yeah, so we kind of like trialled it with an extra comic when we ran out of time on episode 5, I think.
Hill House.
Yeah, and we liked it, and it just gives us a bit of flexibility. But every week, 11 and 11 on Fab Radio, you will get your live show, sort of live show, and on Sunday you'll get it on Listen Again. But keep your eye out for Pull or Pass After Dark, because it's like After Dark and stuff.
So I was at Thought Bubble last weekend, and I have talked to a few different people, and hopefully we will have more special guest interviews soon.
Ooh.
I'm not going to say who with in case it all falls through, and it's just...
Yeah, I've been in conversations with at least 2 other podcasts, and there's some interest in doing them there, but I'm not going to say who in case that falls through as well.
Yeah, so...
Oh, quick warning is Pull or Pass After Dark. It's not family friendly. We've decided we're allowed to say naughties on that and discuss more adult topics. The idea being that the radio show is broadcast at 11 a.m. on a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
So we keep this nice and family friendly, but After Dark, oh my goodness, the gloves are off. I'm not saying Taipei Deathmatch, but the gloves are off.
I mean, so far in the 1.5 After Darks we've done, I think we've kept it all above board. But
yeah, but I got some plans for naughty words, mate.
That I feel like that's going to be your note. Is just swear words you want to just slot in.
I could fill a notebook with swear words I want to say, and that would just be to describe Boris Johnson. But this is not a political show. Have you got any comic book news, Zach?
Yes, I can.
Did I break you?
A little bit.
Good.
Not ready for anything.
Ever.
So mine is all kind of largely Netflix related. But
okay.
So the news I've stumbled across in my weekly doings. So Netflix have acquired the rights to adapt The Unsound, which was a Boom comic by Cullen Bunn and Jack T. Cole.
Current Bunn?
Cullen.
Oh,
Cullen Bunn.
Cullen Bunn, not Current Bunn.
No, Current Bunn.
Do you know what I fancy now?
Yeah, right.
And Current Bunn.
Thanks for throwing that in, Mark. That's not going to be a problem that can make me hungry at all.
There's a song about that.
Okay.
Have you not heard the Current Bun song?
No, but I feel like I'm probably going to.
No, I'm not going to sing.
Damn. So that is being directed by David F. Sandberg, who also directed Shazam. So
Okay.
that could be cool. But apparently he's done a lot of horror stuff before. So this is Unsound is horror. So
Right, okay.
this is going to
Did
be
sound it.
Yeah, it's got a quite horror name. So this will be a horror adaptation from Boom and Netflix, and cool.
Sweet, I'm in.
The other thing I've got is so there's been a kind of loose, not really update on Sandman for Netflix.
Oh, I got that as a news thing as well. So you go ahead. I did the big...
Sorry to steal it out from you. We should really consult before we sit down.
I quite like that we don't consult.
So Neil Gaiman and David Goyer are working on Sandman for Netflix, supposedly 2 seasons at least.
Splendid. I do love me some Sandman.
To be written by, God, I've got his name somewhere, Alan Heinberg, who wrote Wonder Woman.
Okay.
So,
not Neil Gaiman.
It doesn't seem like he's writing it. Well, I guess he'll be writing, and it's like the script adaptation will be...
What's that word that the Americans use for we pay you because you're kind of important but you don't actually do much? Executive producer.
There we go, yeah. So, yeah, I think Gaiman's going to have a hand in it, which... Good.
Is important.
Yeah, he's the guy for it.
That being said, Alan Moore didn't have a hand in Swamp Thing, and that was still pretty cool.
Yeah, fair.
But Alan Moore doesn't
Alan
have
Moore
a hand in
doesn't have a hand in
ever.
anything. No, it's annoyed if you talk to him about it. It seems. But
yeah. If we could get an interview with Alan Moore, I think I'd probably do a wee or something. Like, I'd be so excited.
I remember a few years ago he was interviewed by Scroobius Pip for his podcast.
Yeah, Scroobius Pip's a lot cooler than we are.
He is, and even Scroobius Pip was like, yeah, so I've had to go to Alan Moore. He doesn't have a mobile phone. I had to call him on his landline and hope he was in. And
brilliant.
So it sounds like a real challenge, but
brilliant.
If we can take the studio to Alan Moore, I'm not against interviewing Scroobius Pip either, if that's available.
Does he like comics?
He does.
Okay, safe.
And wrestling. He's like our ideal guest.
Yeah.
So
he's also too cool for us.
Oh, very much too cool for us.
Yeah.
But if he is listening,
hi, Scroobius Pip. He's not listening, is he?
No, probably not. But neither's Alan Moore. So
no. Hi, Alan Moore.
Hi, Alan. Love you.
Oh dear. We're not doing
this
well.
has gotten weird, and we're
right.
Like,
continue.
My third piece of news is the Harley Quinn trailer, which was advertised as a Red Band trailer, and I assumed that was like some kind of joke. And then watched the trailer, and I'm like, wow, okay.
Now, you sent me this trailer, and I did watch it, and I was like, gosh.
Yeah, right.
It was quite gory and
sweary.
And quite sweary. And we don't swear on the show. We've established this.
I had no idea I didn't know they were making an animated series for Harley Quinn. I probably did.
I think I vaguely did.
I probably read it and kind of, it's been months and I've put it away in my mind, but it looks really good.
Yeah, it looks brilliant. I really enjoyed the trailer, and I'll definitely watch it. But DC have done well on their animated series in the majority.
For a long time, they've been quite consistent.
In the majority.
There's always exceptions.
They dropped the ball a few times, but it was... Yeah, it looks great. It looks fun.
Entirely into it. It looks like they've kind of taken... like Deadpool in their stride and gone, well, if Marvel can do that, and Marvel and Fox, we can really push the boat out on this and go.
Yeah, why not?
But it looks good.
Yeah, it does.
It seems like it's a good cast of actors who I've immediately forgot most of. I know Kaylee Cuoco, so Penny from The Big Bang Theory, is Harley Quinn. Some of the other
that's how I recognise the voice.
It was driving me mad, so I had to check. So quite a lot of the cast are like, yeah, I can see this. And
is Mark Hamill playing the Joker?
No, unfortunately not. But it is someone good playing the Joker, and I've forgotten who. But it's someone I like.
Not Mark Hamill.
Not Mark Hamill.
Not Mark Hamill.
But I am kind of looking forward to what we're going to get there. It looks like we've got a lot of weird and wonderful characters thrown in. Not your standard kind of DC show by the looks of it. So.
I presume it's going to be on DC Universe, right?
Of course, yeah. So
I've got a nice link about that, because they've also renewed Titans for a third series.
Yes, I saw
Not that British people have been able to see Series 2 yet, legally.
Just to jump in, the Joker is Alan Tudyk.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Alan Tudyk is fine.
Yeah, fair.
But, good. I'm glad that Titan's been renewed again, but we've not seen Series 2 yet, because, British people don't deserve things.
No, we don't. We're the worst, and things should not be sent to us.
Talking about that, Disney Plus.
Oh, yeah.
Disney Plus was launched in America and the Netherlands, but we did get a release date for Britain, and it's only 5 months away.
See, this kind of reminds me of, you remember when the WWE Network started?
Yep.
And we had to have it plugged on every WWE event?
Yep.
And it's like 2 years later,
Yep.
you guys got it.
So 31st of March is when we're allowed it.
Which feels like a long wait, and it's like, so are we going to get the shows through Amazon, Netflix?
They've confirmed that that's not going to be the case, actually. I've seen it on Twitter where they've actually replied to people because, funnily enough, British people want to see things like, for example, The Mandalorian, which was their big launch title. I would like to see The Mandalorian, but I'm not going to see it until the 31st of March, am I?
Which, let's be honest, that's 5 months' worth of potential spoilers, which is
and
forever.
I've had people talking about VPLs, and I did deliberately malaprop that, just so you know.
Oh, yeah.
People talking about VPNs and obviously piracy, but I just want them to make it fair and let British people have. I mean, are they like? Is this revenge for the English Civil War? I believe they call it the War of Independence. But is this revenge for that? Is this what we deserve?
It's a bit late in the game for revenge, isn't it?
Well, maybe.
Revenge is a dish best
But
served
what did
immediately.
we do to deserve this?
I
would like to give you
leave that one with
5 months.
me.
I would like to give you 5 months worth of money. No, it's okay. We'll wait for your 5 months of money.
Instead, Disney Plus are going to have 5 months of Mark Adams tweeting them.
I have been tweeting them quite regularly with my vitriol, and in their defence, we are finally allowed Disney Plus in 5 months. Still nothing on DC on Universe, is there?
Well, maybe this is the spark that will encourage DC to make an announcement, because they hate to feel left out, like they're not trying. So maybe this will be that. Yeah, and we'll try and get you DC Unlimited before. Is it DC Unlimited? DC Universe.
DC Universe.
So maybe this is it. Maybe this is what they need to motivate them to do the thing, right?
I feel like every single show I'm having a whine about British people getting stuff after American people, and maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe it happens a lot, and maybe it's really, really frustrating if you happen to be British and like cool things.
Well, we do
geeky things.
like somewhat cool things.
Do you remember when comic books weren't cool?
You mean the past? Yeah, I do.
Well, I don't know. I just remember growing up in the 90s and being the weird kid who read comic books.
I mean, I can relate. I'm the guy who stayed into comics and stayed into wrestling through all of secondary school. Sorry, I know someone will have gotten upset about that.
Me?
You, yeah. And that was hard. It's hard being the only wrestling fan or the only comic book fan. But I'm glad we're somewhat more accepted.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's cool to like MCU films now, but when Iron Man came out, people were like...
It was not cool.
No, it wasn't. We are true geeks. We have suffered.
We sound like we're making it a contest now, but we've had some hard times.
We have. We suffered through films like Batman Forever.
Hey, you watch your math.
And other terrible, terrible films.
Whoa. Batman Forever is not a terrible, terrible film.
Mate.
If we put a scale of comic book films we've had, Batman Forever's coming out pretty good.
Soundtrack aside, Spawn was wretched, and that breaks my heart. Soundtrack is like the best film soundtrack of all time, but...
That's a bold claim.
Right, not this week, because I've already lined up the tracks, but next week I'm going to play something off the Spawn soundtrack, because I love that soundtrack.
This can be the next After Dark. It'll be me and you arguing non-stop about the best comic book film soundtracks.
I mean, we can have a After Dark where we just talk about comic book films and just randomly shout at each other for 20 minutes.
That's what the people want.
Is that the kind of content people want?
Tweet us.
Yeah, at Pull or Pass, or join our Facebook group. Just search for Pull or Pass Radio Show on Facebook.
That's another plug out of the way.
It is. I don't think I've got any more news.
Yeah, that's kind of all I've got this week. It seems like as the summer has gone past us now, we're getting less and less news. I guess everything gets packed in around Comic-Cons.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I suppose it does.
It's been a bit of a quiet one.
Shall we talk about some comics? This week's comics, in fact.
Yeah, let's do it.
But before we do, Zach, tell us about our sponsor.
So our sponsor is Travelling Man.
Who are Travelling Man?
Now, Travelling Man are your local comic book shop, but they also sell other stuff like manga and board games and RPGs and...
I like all those things.
Yeah, you do, don't you?
I do, actually. Like, I genuinely do. Travelling Man, like, get a lot of my money for realsies. And this was before they sponsored me, but they still get lots too.
It's true. Very true.
They're in Manchester, Leeds, York, and Newcastle.
Newcastle.
Yeah.
It helps if you say Newcastle like you don't trust it, I find.
I couldn't remember. I don't think I've even been to Newcastle. I've been to South Shields. Isn't that close?
Geography is not my strong point.
No,
so
it's mine neither.
Yes.
Maybe.
Perhaps. Both on the map, I'm sure.
They are.
So yeah, that's Travelling Man. They sell things. They sponsor our show. And we both have our standing orders, pulls at Travelling Man.
We do. At the moment, did you know that Travelling Man have got a 3-for-2 offer on Boom comic graphic novels?
They still do, yeah.
They do. So if you like graphic novels...
But it must end soon.
Probably the end of November.
Yeah, so...
But if you like comics, and you particularly like Boom comics...
Now's the time.
It's a good offer, that.
It is.
It's like you pay for 2, but you get 3.
You do. And there's some really good Boom books.
Yeah, there is, actually. There really is.
Godshaper, Power Rangers. These are all the ones I can think of that I've read recently.
I'd have gone with Buffy, but yes.
Buffy, I guess also there.
Yeah.
Also around, you know.
Shall we quickly explain what a pull is as well?
Yeah.
A pull is... I'm not going to over-egg this. A pull is essentially a casual subscription service that's moderated by your local comic book shop. You don't have to give them a direct debit or anything. If you've got comics that you read every month, you tell them, and they keep them behind the counter for you, so you don't have to go in every week. You can also say, I'm looking forward to this book, so in a couple of months' time, you know that's something that you fancy is coming up, you can ask them to get that reserved for you. It just means that you never miss an issue of your favourite comic. It is called your pull. And that's kind of the point of this podcast is we read 3 books.
Hey, this is a radio show.
Yeah, podcast and radio show. Both of those things. And we decide whether we want to put it onto our pull or pass it because it ain't for us.
Every time one of us says pull or pass and we don't do it in sync, heartbreaking.
Yeah, I know. That was good that when we did that.
Those 2 times we pulled off.
Pulled it off. Anyway.
No bad.
First comic was by Marvel, and it was Morbius. Surprised me not, considering there is a film coming up soon, but Morbius is back. It's issue 1, but it is also Legacy issue 42. Which says a lot about Morbius. If there's only been 42 Legacy issues ever, he's not the most popular of characters, really.
I honestly had to have a little think when I saw that of... if I read all 42 issues of Morbius.
You probably... I mean, it's much more attainable than, say, Fantastic Four, which is on Legacy a million.
Yeah, I remember when I first got into comics, so there's a couple of shops in Manchester that sell, like, old vintage comics, I suppose, and I remember picking through for issues of, like, old issues of Morbius and Midnight Suns, and... I deeply regret that. It was following what I'd enjoyed in like the animated series and stuff, and I thought Morbius was super cool. And the comics, some of them are, and some of them are not.
And the cynic in me, if he wasn't part of the Sony Venomverse, whatever you want to call it,
the Morbius verse.
Well, this definitely wouldn't be. This definitely wouldn't be a comic they'd be launching if it wasn't for the fact there was a film coming up.
The confidence in Morbius seems to come and go, because I know in about 2013 he had a solo series that...
Well, it lasted about 42 issues by the sounds of things.
No, this only ran for like less than a year.
Right, so he's had at least 2 series. Yeah,
he's had multiple
totaling 42.
He also had a series which was called like Legion of Monsters, I think, which was him and like the living mummy and a werewolf like in a monster-filled city.
Okay.
Which...
Sounds naff.
That was ridiculous. But it also kind of canon introduced that Morbius became a vampire in the 70s, and it was like...
Oh, okay.
Are you just throwing Peter Parker in it and going, actually, mate, you've got to be about 40?
Well, how old is Peter Parker in the comics now? Mid-30s?
Ageless.
Ageless.
He must be, but... they don't acknowledge his age, and Morbius is just throwing down like, well, I got bitten. No, I didn't get bitten. I turned myself into a vampire in the 70s, so Peter Parker should have aged, and
Shall we just kind of... Should
we talk about Morbius?
Yeah.
Not historical Morbius.
Right, okay. So my notes say horror comic ! Love heart.
Okay.
It was definitely a horror comic. It was great. And the first full pager, gave you an idea of the vibe they were trying to portray, and it was gruesomeness.
Yeah.
And it's great. That was a statement of intent, and I really liked that.
I agree. I think that first kind of double-page reveal of Morbius and kind of tension building did work.
Yeah.
And I thought the art style did suit what this is.
Absolutely. I really did like the art. I thought the art was pretty gorgeous, actually, and it suited a horror comic. Yeah,
I do have some kind of counter-arguments against that.
Go on, then.
I did feel a little bit like it was a bit all over the place. So it feels like so much happens in this issue, which has been a complaint I've made about a few different books.
Yeah.
So we kind of have...
Maybe that's the nature of the beast of comic books, though, considering the limited amount that they...
Maybe.
Yeah.
I just... So... Spoilers. But so he cures himself within half an issue.
Yeah.
And then uncures himself.
Yeah.
But it just feels a bit abrupt, and the way it's sliced up between jumping through the two different scenes seems a little erratic.
That I would agree with that, but I did like the nice one-page origin, covered it, got it sorted.
Yeah.
This is, just in case you haven't read Morbius before, this is what happened to him years ago. Great.
I made a note about that, and I totally agree. I think the synopsis of Morbius was super helpful, even though I know the origin of Morbius. Yeah. The only thing that got me was, I feel like having it as the final page of your comic is kind of a... We often talk about where the title page appears in Marvel books, and I feel like the intro... if you're new to Morbius, I feel like finding that out at the end isn't going to be great for you. I feel like you could... I feel like you're going to need that info up front, and he's on the cover. It's not like it's a spoiler to go, by the way, Morbius is in this.
Definitely a vampire.
So I think giving that information to new readers up front and saying, like, hey, this is Michael Morbius, this is where he's at, would have been better for a new Morbius reader.
True.
But maybe that's just a side note.
As you are a fan of Morbius, who was the woman?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay, that's fine. It's not just me being ignorant.
They kind of introduced her off panel with the dialogue coming in, and I was like, it's going to be Elsa Bloodstone. It's always Elsa Bloodstone. You're hunting monsters, you're Elsa Bloodstone.
Right.
And then it showed us the woman, I'm like, you're not Elsa Bloodstone.
You are somebody.
You're nameless monster hunter? And I'm like, where's Elsa at? Promises were made by the fact that you introduced that there is a woman hunting monsters, and I immediately go, Elsa Bloodstone.
Right, it's either
It's
either her or Buffy, and Boom Comics have got Buffy. Yeah. We established that earlier in the show.
So yeah, a bit of a weird one, a bit of a kind of, here is this character. Names, we don't need names.
Okay, I'm glad it's not just me being ignorant and uninformed and stuff.
I guess we'll find out in coming issues.
Or not.
Or not, yeah, who can say?
So, is it a pull or a pass for you? Are you finished, or have you got more to say?
I had one other thing.
Go on then.
One other thing. So, the entire issue almost is kind of narrated with talking about Aristotle.
Yes.
And while I like that in one sense, it did annoy me. So, I kind of felt like... You ever watch The Good Place?
No.
You should, it's great. But there is a character in The Good Place who studies philosophy and ethics.
Right.
And the dialogue of Morbius quoting Aristotle was like something he would quote in The Good Place as a kind of boringly long anecdote.
Okay.
And that's how it felt in this, was like, I get it. Michael Morbius is smarter than me. That's fine. He's a scientist who turned himself into a vampire, so maybe in some ways he's not smarter than me.
True that.
But stop. Give me words from Michael. Don't keep telling me what Aristotle thinks and how Morbius is going to paraphrase that at me. That kind of... I think it went on for so long that I'm like, I don't care.
Fair enough.
Less Aristotle. I mean, by all means, more Aristotle if it's got a point, but...
Perhaps we would find out if we pulled this. So, Zach, is this a pull or a pass?
For me, this is a pass. I didn't want it to be. I like Morbius, and I was curious as what I was going to get, but on this occasion... Not today, Morbius.
Fair enough.
How about you?
For me, it's a weird contradiction. It has kind of reminded me and hyped me for the Morbius film, and I'm looking forward to it. But for the comic, it didn't grasp me enough, which I'm surprised by. I was expecting it to because it's a horror comic and it's by Marvel.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it is a pass for me as well.
I mean, I'm going to be honest with you on this. When it goes up on Marvel Unlimited, I'm going to give it a try, and I'm going to see if I was wrong on this day. Maybe I'll even come back in a future radio show and go, I was totally wrong, Morbius all the way.
Well, stay tuned.
We'll find out in 6 months, guys.
Stay tuned. Shall we move on?
Let's.
Would you like to talk about Dollhouse Family or Folklords next?
Either or, really. I'm pretty.
Let's go with
pretty
Folklords then. Folklords is by Boom Comics, so you know.
Funny that.
If you like Boom Comics.
Not even intentional.
No, it wasn't, but if you do like Boom Comics, Travelling Man has got a 3 for 2 offer on them at the moment.
They need to sponsor us harder the amount of times we've plugged it in this.
Who, Boom Comics or
Ooh,
Travelling Man?
If Boom want in, we'll talk about Boom every week.
Safe. So, Folklords. Odd start.
I can do an intro for this if you want. I actually wrote words down.
Go on then.
So, it's a fantasy story in reverse.
Yes.
Ansel. Words mean nothing when you write them down. Has visions of essentially the real world, and thinks that's where he belongs, rather than among the fantasy creatures he lives with. I've used the word among 3 times in that sentence. I've cut a couple out. So he'll set out on a quest to find the mysterious folklords and a way to the real world.
Yeah, so it starts with I'm an odd person. I wear odd clothes, and he's wearing like
a suit
in a fantasy world, and that's a nice little twist on.
Yeah, it's kind of adorable
on a trope. Really.
Yeah, it is exactly what it says it is. It is a kind of complete reversal of a fantasy book. And
he has weird dreams in his in like the fantasy setting where he sees our world, and that's nice. I like that. I like that a lot. That's really clever. Yeah. I also like Charles the Troll.
Completely fair. Yeah. As far as troll side characters go, I reckon he's pretty close to the top of the list.
I did enjoy Charles the Troll. He made me smile on 2 occasions. He was only in it twice, so both 100% success rates. Charles the Troll made me smile.
So Matt Kint, if you're listening to this, good job, more troll.
Cheers, Charles.
So this, I think art-wise, so it's Matt Smith is the artist, which I was then like, wait, that Matt Smith? No,
not the Doctor.
I think it really suited this. It was kind of reminiscent of some of the recent Labyrinth comics, so it's kind of got that.
I love Labyrinth.
You do love Labyrinth.
But I'm the right age to love Labyrinth. You're too young to love Labyrinth, really.
But I hate Dark Crystal. What are you going to do?
I liked the Dark Crystal film, but I struggled with the teleseries, even though I recognised that the puppetry was insanely good.
Yeah, that's fair. I haven't tried the series yet. Maybe one day.
I wanted to like it, and I didn't like it.
Feel for you, Mark.
I know.
It's like Watchmen all over again.
I know.
So to go back to Folklords for just a minute.
Sorry.
I think the art really, really works. I think it's kind of, I don't know, kind of cartoony enough to pull off the ridiculous world it's built of kind of fantasy characters and Ansel. Really likes the art style. Matt Kint, as the writer, is a writer who I kind of have a real mixed experience with him. Some of his books I've read and I think, you're really good. And some of his books I read and think, why has this happened? So, and I mean that in the best possible way. I mean, I've read books and thought, okay, this isn't for me, but I have friends who love the books that aren't for me, so that's fair. But he did a lot of Valiant stuff, which...
I know you like your Valiant, dear.
Good job, Matt. But then, he's done some more indie books that some I've loved, some I've hated. So I guess that's the nature of comics. This feels different from a lot of his other stuff. Feels kind of more, I don't know, more fantasy, I guess.
Yeah.
He kind of borders on the sci-fi a lot of the times, which is normally my type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And weirdly enough, he's gone fantasy with this, and this is more my thing than his sci-fi books. So, good job, Matt Kint.
Good.
Yeah.
The Guild of Librarians, they were so malevolent. They were tropey. They were. Yeah. They really were, but...
All seem to have one eye covered.
It was tropey done well.
I really liked them, yeah.
They're like evil regime that kind of like dumbs everything down and stops people from doing what they want to do and freedom. It
sure
really
does sound
is.
like some kind of political party.
Yes, it does. But it was done really well, and I was like, this is tropey. I hate them. This is tropey. I really hate them.
Yeah, and we kind of have one scene where there's a kind of fully armoured up librarian who's just like, where are you kids going? They're like, nowhere, I left a book somewhere. It's like, oh, I thought you might be doing some kind of quest, but whatever. And it was just kind of so out of the blue and so like, yeah, this is entirely fitting in that kind of labyrinth-esque fantasy story where there's just one character. It's like, aren't you evil? It's like, some days.
Yeah, it's quite beautifully peculiar.
Yeah, which is, I guess, what a fantasy book should be in many ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least this type of fantasy, which does, like I say, it does feel very kind of labyrinth and
Yes.
almost even in plot because so there's a series recently called Labyrinth Coronation, which is about the mother of the Goblin King trying to save him from becoming the Goblin King, essentially.
Oh, okay.
So she's kind of running through, and everything's insane around her, obviously, and chaos is everywhere. But it kind of feels similar because it's this character who's from the real world, or I'm assuming, I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's probably going to have come from our world and been dumped into this world in a kind of reverse
I hope
fantasy
that's not
book.
the case, actually.
I could be wrong, but where else is he getting that suit from?
That's
Man?
the danger of this book, is it could end up being too meta and stop being enjoyable.
Yeah, I don't want that to be the case.
Yeah.
I want it to kind of surprise me and be totally different. But
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like it's that similar feel of character who doesn't quite belong running around a fantasy world, which now sounds like most fantasy books. But never mind. I stand by what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So, Zach, Folklords, is it a pull or a pass?
It's a pull for me. It's kind of, I think it feels very kind of heartfelt and light-hearted in a way. Two hearts in one kind of anecdote, but light-hearted and heartfelt and kind of, I don't know, fun. And like I say, I'm not normally a fantasy guy, so I think this is an exception.
I went into this completely blind. And I do that quite deliberately quite often as well.
Yeah, I think we both do at
and I
times.
didn't know what to expect. And yeah, it's a pull for me as well. I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it. Lots of fun.
Yeah, definitely. Double pull.
Double pull.
We should make a list of the ones that get double pulled.
We could do.
Kind of celebrate them at the end of the year.
You should do that.
That just sounds like something I have to...
Yeah, you should definitely
I'm
do
going to
that.
have to listen to our podcast.
Yeah.
Oh,
Get those listening figures up. It's a radio show. Moving on to DC Black Label's Dollhouse Family. Spoiler, I had already put this on my pull list. I put all of the Joe Hill stuff on my pull list because I love Joe Hill. So this is whether or not I made the right choice and whether or not I might actually cancel my pull rather than a pull or a pass for me.
I mean, we had it a couple of weeks ago with Roku from me, so...
Yeah, that's true, actually. It was already on your pull list.
Yeah, so we'll see, I guess.
So, within 2 pages, I really, 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 really hated Pete.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness!
Um,
I could see them going. You have to hate this character.
Yeah.
and I almost tried to resist it.
But there's just nothing to resist. It's
No.
like, no, I'm not going to fall for your ploy. It's like, oh man, I hate this guy. Damn.
It's like everything from his laziness to his abusiveness, his victim blaming, his animal cruelty, his misogyny, his child abuse. Everything about him is fundamentally unlikable, and that could have been really twee and really badly done, but it isn't. It's done really, really well, and I hated him.
He's such a well-structured bad guy.
Just horrible, horrible, petty, pathetic little man.
Which, very true. And one of the things that I noted is, so there are quite a lot of time jumps. So we start in 1979, and then we kind of go to 1981, 1982, I think 1983.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
each time we go back to the family, we kind of jump a year at least.
Yes.
So I guess we're only seeing the worst parts of him. And I get that he's a bad guy, but I am curious as if they told it in more of a chunk of time, how they would have gone about telling that as Because obviously the way we see it is he goes from bad to real bad
Yeah.
in the blink of an eye.
Yes, he does.
But
he is just
the worst.
Oh, hate.
Yeah.
The start was more sci-fi than I was expecting as well.
Sci-fi, yeah, probably the right word. Kind of sci-fi, kind of almost reminiscent of the recent Avengers book where they went, by the way, a celestial crashed on Earth
Yeah,
a million
like,
years ago.
Huh?
And I'm like, wait, what?
This is supposed to be about evil dolls.
The first, I'm not going to lie to you, the first page, I initially thought, is this just not what I think this book is?
Yeah, I thought, that was the same for me. And that's great. And
immediate confusion.
No, that's great. I'm pleased that, horror can be quite paint by numbers. And immediately I was like, ooh, this isn't what I was expecting.
Yeah.
And then, ooh, misogyny and animal cruelty.
Didn't see this coming either.
3 pages in, that's yuck.
It's a real roller coaster of the first 3 pages.
Yeah, it really is.
We do also get flashbacks to the 1800s.
We do.
Of Joshua Kent.
Yeah.
I've written his name down somewhere. One of the Joseph Kent, who is suspiciously set 2 years before the year that they say the doll's house was built in.
Quite.
Which I feel like that's going to matter. He kind of ties into the sci-fi intro, and we kind of see him getting lost in a cave, and hilarity ensues. Well,
and for me,
horror ensues. But
for me, currently, I'm much more interested in the Alice storyline with her and her abusive dad going into the doll's house than I am in Joseph's story. But I'm pretty
I feel
sure
like it's all going to matter.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure at some point that will change and they'll link up, and I'll get that element of the story. And I'm quite excited to find out what happens, how they meet, and why. Why is this geezer going into a cave? Got anything to do with a creepy dollhouse? And we don't know any of that yet. But there's 6 more issues, so funny that.
Yeah, and it feels like it could be quite a convoluted read, but we've got multiple timelines and things like that.
Convoluted.
I think we both do, and that's a blessing and a curse, as I'm sure you know.
And the art is gorgeous. Just perfect for this book. I loved it.
It's not my favourite art, but I think it completely suits this book.
That's real. Yeah, I agree. That's why I liked it, because it suited the book. The horror, it was great.
Just completely down to the ground. I think this is the right art style. It's Mike Carey writing, who has a history of, he wrote the original Lucifer series and various other bits and pieces that I've read over the years. So I think he is quite suited to almost a horror, dark kind of story. And it's interesting because, for me, I'm seeing it as Mike Carey, who's actually credited as M.R. Carey, which is interesting. I don't know if that's
maybe that's his dark. That's his dark
horror name,
alter ego, black label, etc. name.
This was something. I can't speak today. Sorry. Something that interested me is, so Mike Carey was obviously then Lucifer, big name for Vertigo, and we're now seeing him write horror for Black Label, which is kind of the continuation of Vertigo.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's pretty much Vertigo.
So I'm kind of interested in seeing. So for the people, yourself included, who were worried about the lack of Vertigo, I feel like it's kind of going, I mean, Vertigo's still here. These creators are still with us, and they're still doing what you want from them. So
it's almost like a rebrand rather than a new brand.
Also, so Peter Gross, gonna go with, and Vince Locke are the artists for this, and totally work. I'm going to assume they might have a history of Vertigo. I forgot to look it up. But at least I'm honest.
Well,
by all means, tweet us.
And at least you do look things up.
On occasion.
I just sit and go, I like that.
Sometimes I just recognise names and go, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Don't have to look into this one. Yeah.
So Dollhouse family?
Dollhouse fam?
Dollhouse fam. You're possibly young enough to get away with it. I am not.
I'm not sure I'm young enough.
Is it a pull or a pass for you?
It's a convoluted one, much like the book. Boom. It's a pass, but with reasons. And my reasons are, and you'll understand, you'll agree, you'll think I'm right.
Right.
It's a pass because with the various timelines and everything that's going on, and it seeming like quite a convoluted intro, I know me, and I know I'm gonna read stuff in like 2-3 issues time, and I'm gonna think, wait, was that earlier on in the story? Did it tell me that? And I'm gonna want to flick back 2 issues to check.
No.
So, on that premise, I'm going to buy the trade of Dollhouse Family. You can quote me on that.
Fair enough.
Because I know I'm going to be wanting to flick back and forth, and that's way easy to do when it's all in one book.
Fair enough.
I also think for the benefit of horror books, I think sometimes they can work better when you've got a big chunk of them.
Yeah.
So,
I think
it's a pass with rules.
I think that you're not right. I do think you're right, and I generally agree with that. But I decided a long time ago that I was going to put all of these House of Hill books. Is it House of Hill?
Hill House.
Hill, yeah, whatever it is.
Hill House.
Yeah, all of those on my pull list, and I don't regret that. I really, really enjoyed this comic. I really enjoyed this first issue, and I can't wait for more.
Totally fair. I
Good
agree.
times.
Completely agree. I think it's going to be a good read. Don't get me wrong. I think for some people it's going to be way better to read in singles, but I know I'm going to be flicking back and forth.
Fair enough.
So, yeah, here we are. Almost a double pass. A pass and a half. No, a pull and a half. I can't do words.
No, you can't. Let's talk about our lovely little playlist that is available on Spotify. If you just look for Pull or Pass playlist, I think I've called it.
Yeah, something
Something really
to the
obvious. And it's basically all the songs that we've played on this show. And already it's looking beautifully peculiar with Eiffel 65, Hungry Like the Wolf, and Thunderstruck. I mean, yay. It's even got a song by you on it.
It has, and incidentally, I am in the process of putting up the Pull or Pass theme and After Dark theme onto Spotify, so you can add them as well.
I will when they're up. You should add your stuff, and I'll put it on the Pull or Pass playlist. Easy for me to say.
Some of my music is the stuff that isn't covers that I can't figure out the copyright laws to. But
did you ever work out whether the Monster Mash you were allowed to cover it or not?
So basically, I've submitted it to the guys I used to put music on Spotify, and it's kind of the ball's in their court now. I've told them that I didn't write it and it's a cover, and now I'm just waiting in the hopes that they'll get back to me and go, yeah, whatever, and
Fair
not
enough.
go, can you prove that Bobby Pickett, who may or may not be dead, is okay with this? And I'll have to go, not really, he's dead, but I hope Bobby Pickett is dead, and I'm not just presuming he's dead.
Well, I don't hope he's dead.
Well,
I hope he's very much alive.
If he's alive,
that's callous.
If he's alive and well, great, but I don't think he is.
That's callous, that is.
I'm a harsh man, and
So anyway, if you listen to the podcast version of our show and you want to know the music that we've played over the last 7 issues, you can by looking us up on Spotify Pull or Pass playlist.
we should tweet the link to that again, or
Yeah, I'll do that.
I think we have before.
I'll do that.
Keep people informed.
Also, while I'm being pluggy, I was on another podcast this week.
Traitor.
Not traitor. Cross-promotion and all that.
You better have mentioned us a lot.
I did. Maybe. I didn't at all. I was on Super Tat Film Club again. I'm a regular guest host with the lovely Malachi J. Matthews and Hollywood Fletch. And they talk about tat films. Films that are available for free to watch on YouTube that are amusingly bad in most cases. And this week we talked about the incomparable, the magnificent, the masterpiece that is Miami Connection. And if you haven't seen Miami Connection, it is free on YouTube and it is beautiful. YK Kim is a hero for making this film. And I've kind of spoiled it, but listen to me talking about a delightful film on Super Tat Film Club this week. Look for Super Tat Film Club on Spotify or other sites and stuff. I don't know.
Well, we only know about Spotify, don't we?
That's because this is what we both use for our podcast.
What the others are called.
There's one to do with Apple, and there's one to do. The Anchor is very good apparently, and Stitcher, and that's.
It's okay, Mark. Don't.
There are others.
So yeah, podcasts. Cool.
Should we talk about what we're looking at next week?
Yeah, let's do it.
Next week we have got 2099 Alpha by Marvel.
Aye, we do indeed.
Infected Scarab by DC. And Heartbeat by Boom. That is 2 weeks of Boom.
Double boom.
We basically try and do a Marvel, a DC, and an indie, and we just go through all the indies and pick a number one. I tend to push for Image, you tend to push for Valiant, and for some reason we've been reading a lot of Boom recently.
I mean, they just have the best looking books at the moment.
And to be honest, with the track record of Folklords, why the hell not?
Yeah, fair. I don't know. Controversially, I think maybe some weeks we should go more indie and less Marvel DC, but it does depend on the weeks, I think. It
does. I mean, this week there were 3 or 4 Marvel number ones. We could have had a Marvel special.
I mean, next week we've got the same. We've got... So 2099 is starting as an event, and we've got Annihilation, Scourge.
Yep.
So we could go double Marvel event. DC's a mess with the new
DC
releases.
Black Label seems red hot, but there isn't much superhero stuff at the moment.
Yeah, it feels like if it's a new title from DC, it's coming out on Young Animal or on Black Label. Like next week we've got... this week? I can't figure out which week it is. Comics are hard.
No, well, this is hard because
we kind of live a week in the future at least.
Yeah, because we're preparing for next week's show. I almost forgot that we hadn't read Morbius, Dollhouse, Family and Folklore because I was already preparing for 2099 Alpha, Infected Scarab and Heartbeat.
Because we prepare for next week's show before we've read the books for this week's show.
Yeah, we have to.
And I've normally just been and bought my pull for the previous week.
Yep.
Means that I don't understand comics.
Brain-meltingly confusing.
What I was trying to say is Far Sector started today, which is another... Not today. This week.
Last Wednesday.
Started, which is a kind of Green Lantern story, but it's coming out on Young Animal. So even that seems weird because it's like it's still a Green Lantern book, right? So why isn't... So DC seems to be being weird about just not releasing books as DC at the moment and putting it on their imprints, which... I would have never expected a book with a Green Lantern on the cover to be coming out as a Young Animal book. But, I mean, I understand Hill House being its own little world.
Yes, of course. But again, that's DC Black Label.
Yeah, so it's an interesting one. There seems to be more Black Label books and more Rooster Teeth books and more Young Animal books.
Well, the thing is, Black Label's my vibe, so I'm not unhappy by that decision, but it doesn't feel like it's truly DC.
No, I mean, there's a new question series starting next week, also by Jeff Lemire, which is... We
deliberately avoid that because we read too much Jeff Lemire and we've read a lot on this show.
We did Joker, Killer Smile, Jeff Lemire, today. I keep saying today. This week,
it's confusing.
Family Tree came out, which is Lemire. We could have talked about that easily.
I've quite fancied Family Tree, actually. I should probably pick that up anyway.
I bought it as well.
Have you bought it?
Yeah.
All right, I might borrow yours then.
Next week we could do Jeff Lemire for question. All these series look really good.
Well, that's because they're Jeff Lemire and they're good concepts.
So I think we could quite heavily slip into if it's Jeff Lemire and it's a number one, it's DC. We reads it. But we're doing well. We're showing some restraint. So for next week, Mark, which title are you most looking forward to?
Probably 2099 Alpha. Because I've read a lot of 2099 in the past. In fact, I read the original 2099 books and loved them. Fair.
Yeah, I've read some of the originals as well. So
how about you?
2099 or Heartbeats, I think, both look promising. Infected Scarab is entirely my thing as well because I love Blue Beetle. So it's a good week for Zach.
It does sound like a good week for Zach.
Yeah, let's find out.
But that is all we've got time for this week on Pull or Pass. We've pulled, we've passed.
We're going to do it all again next week.
And we'll see you then.
Thanks for listening to Pull or Pass. To listen again, it's www.mixcloud.com/pull-or-pass.
Or you can listen to the podcast version on Spotify, Anchor, YouTube, and all other good podcast sites.
Join our Facebook group, search for Pull or Pass Radio Show.
Follow us on Twitter at Pull or Pass.